So since I started this channel, which coincided with the current Rahu Ketu axis of Aries and Libra, I've been shuffling through various prefix of re words like restart, reboot, re-energize, rejuvenate, trying to find the right re word. This whole idea of restarting the individual of Aries and the Libra balance of other people. That's the nature of what's been happening since April of 2022 is when the first series of eclipses began. Actually, I think it was May, but that's when Rahu and Ketu moved into their current axis. And these nodes of the moon are what create eclipses. So today, just before I started to record this drop, I had this word come into my mind all of a sudden, rebecoming. I'm going to put it up on the screen because I feel like when I say it, it's one of those weird words. But yeah, it's like rebecoming is what I've been kind of struggling to find. That's whatever that means to me or you, or I don't know. That's it. So it's this whole like things fall apart to come back together stronger. We're all rebecoming what we once were through struggle, sometimes through some sort of setback or just some disillusionment, just some simple recalibration of our understanding of the world. So anyway, happy lunar eclipse Cinco de Mayo. Greetings, salutations, and namaste.
So the boring collect, I mean all disrespect, and the neighborhood bars I'd once dreamt I would drink. New York, I love you, but you're freaking me out.
We had a sunny day when I'm doing an eclipse video, which is an anomaly, but that's what's up. I feel a very uplifting vibe having to do with this series. So we're in the third of what will be four eclipses in this particular axis of Aries and Libra. The fourth will come in October in the fall. So there'll be a lot to talk about then. I'm dropping this on the eve of the eclipse. I got my Rahu jersey on. Let's go. It's eclipse time, transformation time. Eclipses are portals. And when I was talking about the rebecoming concept, I actually meant it more metaphysically, but I think it can actually apply to, in this lifetime, to become something that you once were before, to start over again with a dream or a passion you left behind. But I was actually talking about sort of, the bigger metaphysical concept of what we once were, like, going back to Atlantis and all that type of deal. But this is what eclipses do. They actually link, eons together because they're portals. They happen every 6 months. And they all, it's like it forms like a wormhole going back in time, forward in time, and linking in this kinetic chain of events all of these transformative happenings in the world. And these happen in the individual's life and in the world over. So yeah, this particular lunar eclipse happening in Libra, what happens is Ketu, the south node of the moon, becomes conjunct with the moon. And then it's looking at the sun, so it's a full moon, right? The sun is in Aries, being exalted. And we got moon with Ketu basically detaching us from everything that once was so that something can begin again. Because Ketu is the karmic body of what we have accomplished. So this is the other idea. It's where we've been in the macro lifetime cycle, the soul cycle, and where we have a certain degree of expertise that we don't want to rely too much on or get too obsessed with in this in this version of ourselves. And the more I look at this eclipse, this particular one, for some reason, the more fascinating it becomes. And I kind of had this sort of twisted sister take on it. I wanted to have a thought party aloud and include y'all in. So the idea of constellations, which in Sanskrit is nakshatra, that term means the same thing. But these constellations, they exist in deep space. So this is what it's called Swargaloka, and we're in Bhuloka. So the idea of maybe dimensions kind of comes in here. This is a higher dimensional self. And then you kind of talk about, you can actually read a chart from just the nakshatras alone. Just throw out the zodiac sign, throw out the bhava, the house number, and just look at the nakshatras of the individual, and you can put together that individual's life story. And it's this idea of like Jungian archetypes that we're kind of living out, these narratives. This goes back to like Joseph Campbell and The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Anyhow, it's just all that to say, this idea of these lifetimes and this sort of soul cycle, I feel it can be related to through the constellations. Like, this is where the gods live, right? This is where Indra and Varuna and all of these characters from the Vedas, they live in Swargaloka, and we are kind of playing out their stories in a way through these nakshatras in the Bhuloka and the Maya and the illusion. So I don't know if you can kind of see where I'm going with this. This is where the two worlds kind of merge. When we start talking about these transformative portals, like where we're in right now, okay, so let's cut to the chase. The lunar eclipse, which happens midday if you're in the United States on Friday, Cinco de Mayo, 5/5. This is happening. It begins in the nakshatra of Svati, which is solely in Libra. It's only in Libra, but within a couple of hours, at the peak basically of the eclipse, it moves into a different nakshatra. This is Vishaka, and Vishaka has the majority of its presence in Libra, but then it has a little bit in Scorpio too. So it's one of those cusp nakshatras that you can see a lot of flavor and dynamism in an individual, get that Libra and Scorpio. But we're just looking at the nakshatras, right? So this concept is, Svati is the archway, and it's actually been related to by Edgar Cayce. This Arcturus is the star. This is the our recycling, basically where our soul goes to begin again. And the Dogon actually relate this to Sirius, and there may actually be a relationship here that's worth exploring later. But anyhow, let's stick to this idea of Svati. So Svati is the archway. You're going through the archway, you're hitting the target, but then you run into Vishaka. Vishaka is the branch. It's the fork. It's defined by a forked path, but it's also about conjoining. It's coupling. A lot of kind of complicated ideas here. But imagine like a fickle young person looking for love, and you'll get the whole idea of Vishaka. They want to explore it all. They want to see all the branches of the tree, but it's so that they can focus in and live on one limb that's sturdy. This is where relationships, I've talked about Libra as the natural seventh house being the home of relationships, business transactions, war. So all of these very intense interpersonal transformative experiences happen through Libra. And Vishaka is definitely the convergence point of this transformation. So let's talk about that. One of the most captivating aspects of falling down the rabbit hole of studying ancient mythology and cultures is the kind of divergent different cultures in time and space having the same corroborative narratives and tropes that back up some crazy ass concept that we come from, fairies or inner earth or whatever. So that's the case with the Vedas, especially. You have the Indian culture, which is preserved, that is such an immaculate and multifaceted way. And then you also have the Slavic cultures that have an equivalent. And, they, like, Varuna is Paruna in the Slavic. It's incredible. And then you have the Greeks who basically are creating the same idea. Like Zeus is Jupiter, is, it's all tied to these planetary bodies. And what are they? What do they have to do with the development of our souls in this realm? Yeah, it's the data points and the numbers and all of that is really it's part of my obsession with astrology. But one of the things I've been really getting into are the stories and the narratives of the Vedas, and how they're like an elaborate code, like a cipher for something that's you can't put into words. You can't even put into a data code that can be translated throughout time, or at least it helps that data code be understood even deeper. And that's kind of where I wanted to go with this. We're talking about Libra and Aries as these two signs that are having these eclipse energies. And who rules these signs? Mars and Venus. And where are Mars and Venus during this eclipse? Together in Gemini. And everybody kind of has this idea of, Mars is masculine and Venus is feminine. And that's actually in Nadi, it's NADI, Vedic astrology. It's like one of those multifaceted branches of the science. These represent the husband and wife. So Mars is the husband and Venus is the wife. And then you have Libra as the balance point of all relationships. So this is a very beautiful, grand archetype that we're dealing with. It's like the grand masculine, the grand feminine, in the grand sign of these two having to figure out how to work with each other, and how everybody has to work with each other. And I definitely don't mean male and female. I mean masculine and feminine, because these exist in all fluxes in every individual, regardless of your gender. So real quick, let's see if we can, if I can hone in on the idea of the Devata, or the ruler of Vishaka, as being this kind of another cipher or code. And a lot of this is Viktakara interpretation. He's a great Sanskrit scholar. And so Indragni is the god or Devata ruler of Vishaka. And takes a concept of Indra, who's the chief of the gods, and Agni, who's the god of fire. And this is the Pleiades. Kritika is Agni, and Jayasta is the domain of Indra. And this is in Scorpio, Jayasta. So these two concepts combine in this idea of Indragni. And this is the best, which is Indra, and fire, which is Agni. So the best fire is what Vishaka is about. The fire of clarity and wisdom, of understanding the truth of the illusion that one is trying to sort through. And then, the other is Indrani. So Indrani is the love goddess, or the consort of Indra. And this is the other interpretation of this of Vishaka, this concept that when you're basically going from Libra to Scorpio, Vishaka is that penetrative point of where your targeted focus becomes something that then has consequences in Scorpio. So you've done all the branching off, you've considered the options in Libra Vishaka. Libra is about finding balance within perpetual imbalance. And then once you make a decision, whether it's the right decision or not, Scorpio decides how that's going to transform everyone involved. And this is where Vishaka then turns into Anuradha, which is the second nakshatra in Scorpio, and it's all about devotion. That's pretty much, that's very much encapsulates Anuradha. So you can see the story again. Male, female, trying to sort through all of the different options. Man, to be on the dating scene in this particular eclipse cycle, wow. Especially on this weekend in particular, because Vishaka is also known, and to a degree Swati, for a love of intoxicants. So watch out for shit show city if you're going out this weekend. And that isn't to throw shade on these nakshatras, because intoxicants. What's the idea? Why would that be, right? It's to create another mind. You're creating an alternative you whenever you're intoxicating yourself, whether it's through too much food, too much booze, too much sex, too much whatever. You're trying to basically create a duality of another identity that can deal with whatever it is you need to deal with. And that's often the case, is people will get hammered when they need to make a tough decision, whether they make that decision when they're hammered or just afterwards during the hangover haze. So that's very much about, you can create all kinds of other minds in Vishaka through all kinds of different forms of intoxication, healthy and unhealthy. That's sort of the idea. Vishaka really is it's the ultimate it's the bifurcation. It's like the lightning bolt splitting the tree, and the whole tree splitting in half, and the branches going everywhere. It's really, it's about joining and coupling, and yet you have all these options at the same time. So in this particular iteration of our matrix, it can be very confusing because there's so many options. But take like a Game of Thrones time, where quick decisions and leadership and that kind of, how many options do we have? Okay, let's narrow it down to 2, and then let's pick the best one of those. It's about survival. It's about black and white. And that's what Vishaka ultimately wants to create, is that clarity, that pulling of that focus. And so the fact that this is happening in again, this dynamic way where Venus and Mars are like the male and female in Mercury's house, and this is creating a Parivatana Yoga, which I mentioned before, with Aries. So it's such a dynamic transit that all I can say is pay attention to what's happening, because it's really important, especially in relationship dynamics, especially in terms of masculine and feminine energy in oneself, and trying to find that balance. Okay, yeah, I'll wrap it up by saying it's definitely about harvest time. So the fact that we're having the final eclipse in the fall season is pretty noteworthy. But yeah, Vishaka is about creating a good harvest. And this is again why it's a very masculine and feminine, relationship-based, sexually based constellation. And this is all going to be super enhanced by this conjunction of the 2 rulers of Aries and Libra, posted up in Mercury's house. And Mercury is playing a very dynamic role right now because it's retrograde. So it's like literally bringing up all these karmic entanglements for us to disentangle. And that's why, even if things seem, I guess this is what the moral of the story is, if it's really confusing right now, good. It's not going to always be that way. And that's the transformative quality of this 5/5 portal. And I can just only wish everyone the most uplifting, elevated vibes to come out on the other end this month and in the fall. There's some very exciting things happening. Again, I don't even know what's actually current events happening. Full disclosure, when baseball season starts, it's really easy for me to get tunnel vision. So again, I'm going to look into current events and start relating that back once Mercury's out of retrograde. But just consider this, what I can do when I can do it during a pretty crazy transit. That communication is definitely, you're riding the razor. So yeah, I hope this was somewhat clear and somewhat Vishaka-like in its clarity. And blessings to all, and happy lunar sea.